Halloween night, a night for trick-or-treating, jack-o'-lanterns, and costume parties. It is said that on this night, restless souls arise, and the powers of darkness have dominion over the world. But on one particular Halloween, in the year 2000, it would be a light, not the darkness, that would wrestle the spirits of countless eyewitnesses. This is the story of the Halloween UFO. So I put this story together through research that I did on the newphoric.org website. And all the reports, all within a couple of hour time period, lead from California all the way to Cygnet. And all of those reports, they're pretty much the same thing. A single light streaking across the sky. Some of them are two lights streaking across the sky, all going from west to east until it gets to Canada. The report in Pickering, Canada states that this light stops and falls straight out of the sky, goes beyond their sight, beyond the trees. Moments later in Cleveland, another light is seen heading from east to west, leading one to believe that whatever this is that went across the whole United States stopped in Pickering, turned around, and then decided to head across Lake Erie, over Cleveland. And then about 15 minutes after the Cleveland sighting, Fostoria reports a very similar story of a light coming into view, stopping, falling, and then zipping off to the north. And that leads it to the Cygnet sighting. And I was lucky enough to be able to actually find the gal who reported this. She was a pizza delivery driver at the time. And again, this all happened in the year 2000, and I interviewed her several years later. And this is where the story goes from it's just meteorites that people are seeing falling from the sky to totally something different.
It was a regular fall day, no rain, just getting dark as I was going down 75. And I noticed what I thought was a big shooting star. And I thought, oh, well, isn't that cool?
What I can share on the Ohio Halloween incident on there, that went back to October 31st, 2000. The object came down, it appeared to be almost like meteorite. It came in from, in this case, a direction from east to west. As it passed across the region, it appeared almost to have, in this case, like a tail behind it. Something like you could picture meteorite.
Well, I was driving what would be north on 75, and then I got off at the Cygnet exit, and it was at the top of the ramp, and stopped at the stop sign. And ahead of me, out of the trees, is when the craft came gliding out of the trees and sort of hovered over the grassy strip between the exit and the highway. And it stopped and hung there in the air, right across from me.
I think most people are familiar with meteors, and meteors only last for seconds. They zip across the sky and they're gone. And you can get some of the after effects of a meteor behind the meteor or a fireball where it's like shimmering like a sparkler, where pieces flaking off or whatever, but not some of the details that were described in this Halloween sighting.
It came gliding out from the trees, and it was just starting to get dark, but I could tell that it was a black, matte object that was sort of egg-shaped. The bottom sort of looked like a boat, because I could see the bottom. Couldn't see the very top of it because I was not looking down on it. I was sort of right across from it. I could see like the trim or the rivets or whatever that was going around the side of it. It had lights on it, and what was different was there was a glow that was coming out of the back of it, and it was just like a silvery gray light, and it was completely silent. I think, and when I first saw it, I was sort of like in shock because I didn't know what I was seeing. I had never seen anything like it before. It was not a helicopter. It was not a plane. It was not a blimp. It was not anything like I'd seen. It was hanging it glided out and it was hanging in the air. So I really didn't know how to describe it. So I just looked at it, and I don't remember being apprehensive. I think I was stunned. Just stunned. It was hanging in the air, and then it just went like this and turned while it was stationary. And then the glow on the back of it got momentarily brighter, very bright, and it was gone. I didn't see it go, and I was staring at it. That's how fast it was. So I turned to the right and went back and got another pizza.
Here we have an individual case. One individual case, I mean, it's good to have the witness if you can talk to him and find out all the exact details about it, and seeing if the report matches what they're telling you face to face. What's a little bit unique about this case, though, is you also have multiple sightings from different areas. And to me, that does add more credibility to report on there.
When I was making another delivery, that couldn't have been more than 5 minutes after the thing went away. I was headed over 75 on Cygnet Road. At the bottom of the overpass a little way, I saw a car that was pulled over, and I knew what they were pulled over for. So I stopped and I said, "Did you see what I saw?" And he said, "Yes, and it is still here." And that's when I was like, "What?"
A couple individuals were driving in a car, coming up the road when they noticed a object, kind of like egg-shaped object, going from an east to west direction on there. So they pull off the side of the road, got binoculars out, and they could see this object coming down through the binoculars on there. And at the time they were observing it, another car came up to them, another motorist did, it was female, and she actually looked at him and said, "Did you see that?" So she had seen the same object.
And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "It's over there." And he pointed to a little woods that was about 3/4 of a mile away. And there, above the woods, on the edge of the woods, was this craft, only now it has orange lights on it. And they said, "Well, we're going to go look for it. We're going to go see what's happening." And I said, "Well, I work across the highway at the pizza shop. I have to deliver this pizza. Why don't you meet me there and tell me what you find?" So I delivered my pizza and went back to the pizza shop, and the two guys are sitting in the pizza shop, white as ghosts.
They took and got back in the car because the object appeared to be coming down, almost to a tree line, changing colors as it did so, slowing down. So they drove down the road to investigate. The object dropped behind some trees. At that point, disappeared behind the trees.
And they told me that they went down Rudolph Road to Jerry City Road and parked across from the field, from the woods, and the craft started changing the lights and started to move toward them a little bit, and that their batteries started to die and their lights started to dim on their car. So they were very scared, so they just got out of there. They don't know what happened. They just came back to the pizza shop, and that's where we left it at that point.
I've read several variations online of that report about the Halloween UFO story. And initially, you would think from the description that they're reporting a fireball or a meteor until the thing stops and starts to hover. Then you get into head-scratching territory. So there's definitely something involved there, and having multiple witnesses lend credence to it being something unusual.
The witnesses didn't know each other. You had the two original people in the car driving on 75 who got off the road. Have a motorist approach them who also seen the same object, and even had enough time to give the female motorist the same binoculars, and she looked at the object through the binoculars. So I mean, here you had a fairly lengthy sighting again with multiple witnesses on there. And again, it was all during that same time frame on October 31st, going back to the Halloween sighting.
So the story does not end in Cygnet. There are actually more reports of UFOs this night of Halloween. At 8 o'clock in Cincinnati, Ohio, a radio station reports people calling in with stories of blackouts and strange lights in the sky. And one caller said that there was a UFO directly above his house.
All right, we're back here on the river. Dan here. You're listening to The Night Shift on WEVP Cincinnati. We'll head right for the phones. Hey, caller, you're on with Dan. What's up?
Dan, I don't know how to explain this. My lights went out, and I swear to you, you won't believe it, but there are some orange lights that just zoomed past through the sky over my house. Everybody's lights are out.
Look, I'm telling you, E.T. is above my house.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have. All you out of the north end, be safe. And keep on the lookout for those little green men. This is WEVP in Cincinnati. The grave robber is next. Dan out.
After Cincinnati, there was a few more reports, one more in California, one in Alabama, and a very interesting one of a green glowing craft in New York City. So all in all, 25 reports go to the Nuforic website for the night of October 31st, 2000. And that combines over 50 eyewitnesses to the fact that something strange was in the sky on Halloween.
Any scientist will tell you that eyewitness testimony is not enough for a scientist. You can, even if you have 10 people describing something, that a scientist wants a piece of the craft to hold in his hand. If you've got 10 people that saw a person rob a convenience store and identify the person, that pretty much solves the crime, as it was that person. But yet if you have 10 people describing a UFO, like the pizza lady saw the UFO and got together with the other witnesses who watched it hovering and so on, like people connecting and verifying what each other are seeing, definitely adds a solid credibility to a case.
I think in hindsight, it did change me a little bit, made me more open-minded, and it made me not trust authority as much as I used to. Things that are unexplained are just that, not impossible, just unexplained. So I really believe that now. So yeah, I think it's helped me.
It seems to me like they're all seeing the same thing. That's what my heart wants to say. They're seeing the same thing. It's E.T. He's here. We're not alone in this vast cosmos. But my brain is telling me that there has to be some sort of logical explanation for all this stuff. But I can't come up with it. And, I don't know if you can or not, but it blows my mind how we can go from a fireball and a meteorite to an egg-shaped craft hovering, changing colors, and then zipping off into the galaxy before your very eyes. I mean, how do you mistake that for something else?
There's so much we don't know about this universe. There's so much. We look at the stories come out of small communities like Fostoria. You look at stories come out of like Roswell. I've done cases where I've talked to military personnel that swear they have seen things that are not normal. To me, I believe there is something out there, without a doubt.